Although Israel's regional conflicts were mainly fought against Arab states, its broader geopolitical position was heavily shaped by the Cold War dynamic between the United States and the Soviet Union. Especially after the 1967 Six-Day War and the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Israel's international standing deteriorated sharply, making it one of the most isolated countries in the world. International isolation, branded a political pariah alongside South Africa for a significant period, two countries were widely isolated in the international system. South Africa, labeled an untouchable due to apartheid Israel, often called the outcast of the international community. After the Six-Day War, Israel became the country most frequently criticized in the UN General Assembly. Within the UN, 21 Arab states, together with the Islamic world, non-aligned movement, China, the Soviet Union, and the Eastern Bloc, formed a powerful automatic majority capable of passing anti-Israel resolutions almost every year. In total, 93 UN resolutions contained condemnations of Israel. 2. Political warfare on the UN Stage 1. The PLO arrives at the United Nations, 1974. Backed by Arab states, the UN granted the PLO observer status in November 1974. On that day, Yasser Arafat delivered a speech while wearing a pistol, calling for sanctions against Israel. This move was widely seen as one of Israel's most significant diplomatic defeats in the UN. 2. The controversial Resolution 3379, equating Zionism with racism, 1975. On November 10, 1975, the 30th UN General Assembly passed Resolution 3379 with 72 votes in favor, declaring, Zionism is a form of racism and racial discrimination. Western countries overwhelmingly opposed the resolution, while Arab, African, and Soviet bloc states supported it. Israel's UN ambassador, Chaim Herzog, later president of Israel, responded angrily. The Jewish people were the greatest victims of racism in human history. This resolution is a product of hatred, falsehood, and arrogance. To us, it is nothing more than a piece of paper, without moral or legal value. He then tore the resolution in front of the assembly, causing an uproar. In Israel, anger was widespread. Many cities even renamed Un Street as Zionism Street. The resolution was not revoked until 1991, after the Cold War ended. 3. The Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc. From early support to open hostility, the USSR and Eastern European states had been key supporters of the 1947 UN partition plan and among the first to recognize Israel. However, relations deteriorated by the mid-1950s due to several factors. Israel moved closer to the US and Western Bloc. Arab states such as Egypt aligned with the Soviet Union. Jewish issues within the USSR created tension. Key turning points: 1956 Suez Crisis. Soviet bloc condemned Israel and armed Egypt. 1967 Six-Day War. All Eastern Bloc countries, except Romania, severed ties with Israel. 1973 Yom Kippur War. The USSR massively armed Arab states, bringing hostility to its peak. Relations remained frozen for nearly 20 years. 4. Western Europe shifts. From pro-Israel to keeping distance, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, and other Western European nations had long been important partners of Israel. But after the 1973 Yom Kippur War, their policies shifted dramatically. Although the European public generally believed the Arabs initiated the war, governments leaned away from Israel. France declared that land recapture should not be considered aggression. All Western European states, except Portugal, refused to transport U.S. military supplies to Israel. The UK denied the U.S. use of its Cyprus bases. The European Community Foreign Minister's statement, November 6, 1973, called for Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied in 1967, recognized the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. Reasons for Europe's policy shift: Ostpolitik and détente. seeking to avoid confrontation with the Soviet bloc Arab oil pressure. Around 85% of Europe's oil came from the Middle East. These factors forced Europe to reassess its Middle East strategy based on national interest. Asia and Africa. From friendly to distant, Israel had previously provided extensive technical aid to emerging Asian and African nations. Its rapid modernization impressed many leaders. However, after the Six-Day War, Israel's image changed dramatically. No longer seen as a vulnerable state, increasingly viewed as a regional power backed by the United States. Asia. Diplomatically difficult terrain. Asia's large Muslim populations, combined with Soviet influence, created major obstacles. Many Asian countries, China, India, Vietnam, North Korea, Mongolia, etc., did not recognize Israel for decades. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Pakistan fully supported Arab positions. Iran and Turkey maintained contact, but avoided full diplomatic ties. Israel struggled to establish meaningful diplomatic presence in Asia. Sub-Saharan Africa, from high point to mass break-off. Between 1958 and 1961, Golda Meir visited Africa repeatedly, and Israel established relations with 33 African nations. But after the Six-Day War, the situation reversed dramatically. OAU supported an Arab-African alliance. Arab oil states traded aid and cheap oil for diplomatic support. Israel was criticized for its ties with apartheid South Africa after the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Nearly all sub-Saharan African states severed relations with Israel, with only a few exceptions. Most ties were not restored until the 1980s. Latin America. Generally friendly, but not without fluctuations. Latin America has long maintained better relations with Israel due to significant Jewish communities and shared political and economic orientations. In the 1947 partition vote, Latin America provided 13 votes in favor. The 1960s saw a rapid expansion of economic and military cooperation. Before 1973, several countries even had embassies in Jerusalem. After 1973, noticeable changes. Many states voted to admit the PLO. Cuba, Guyana, and Nicaragua severed ties on the Zionism equals racism resolution. 5 voted in favor, 10 abstained, 10 voted against. Despite these shifts, Latin America remained far more stable in its relationship with Israel compared to Asia and Africa.